Okay, we're back.
Yes. Thank you.
So you wanted to talk about the Akashic records. So from what we were before,
Yes. Yes. And in the perspective of authenticity,
right?
what is authentic and what is not, and what is important and what is not.
Well, the Akashic record is a yeah. I'm not much of an authority when it comes to that. Not that I'm authority to anything, but in essence, uh, I've looked at it because I've really never paid that much attention to the Akashic records. I know a lot of it is dissolving out of our recording. But what the Akashic record has been is a record of, there's levels to it. There's the Akashic record of the human experience. So let's put it this way. You take a certain individual, a person.
Mm-hmm.
Each and every time they have a human experience at a soul level,
Mm-hmm.
the soul records it, but it's also going into what we can call Akashic records, which is
Mm-hmm.
basically a memory of, so there's a department, there's a category of all human experiences. Then, if that particular soul has many experiences
Mm-hmm.
from, how can I say, from another planet, say it's on another planet on another universe or another galaxy,
Mm-hmm.
and it has, say, 10 or 20 lives in that. It creates another category of those experiences in the Akashic records. So it's like a library, all right? Now, the other part of the Akashic records is where it takes an overview of the whole category. So it takes on all of that. Now, remember what I was saying. The entity records the human experience, for example. That's related to our present experience. And it goes into the collective and so forth. The soul comes in and it can have multiple purposes or multiple lives, but it's also bringing that part into this experience. Now, the soul records, like I was saying, the most important crucial parts that it can use for its enlightenment. It will not record everything. The entity records more. The Akashic records records kind of the whole thing. Basically, what the human body is experiencing, what the mind is experiencing, what um, the entity is experiencing, and what the soul is experiencing. And that all goes in the Akashic records. So you have the whole experience. I may have lost you. So to pick up where we were before we
Okay.
had that
We
technology
spoke.
blip.
Yes. Well, we spoke about the Akashic records and the aspect of the entity and the aspect of the soul regarding the Akashic records.
Right. And
What is
then,
recorded?
yes, so I've probably recorded a little more, but I'm going to repeat that part.
Okay.
So what the
Okay.
Akashic record does at this point in time is it records all of it. What the mind experiences, what the body experiences, what the entity experiences, and what the
Mm-hmm.
soul experiences, and puts that all a complete record of all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes available for any part of it to be accessed from the soul, from the entity, from the mind, and also from the body. It's all accessible from that Akashic record. Now, the
Mm-hmm.
Akashic record may also keep information of unfinished business and so forth that's there. So, for example, a soul comes in and wants to repeat certain experiences without repeating it physically and through its entity experience. It can go into the Akashic record and bring down the whole experience that was recorded for one clip of that time. For example, say at 5 years old, something happened that was beneficial to get more of it in this incarnation, which is another incarnation.
Mm-hmm.
It can tap into that and bring it in as part of the experience. So it's like a recorder that's recording everything. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
flip out anything, because each one, like the soul, only takes what it wants. The entity takes only what it wants. The mind and the body takes only what it wants. But the Akashic Records takes the whole thing. And all of it becomes available as a resource, right? Now, sometimes what happens is, because there's so much data there and so much information of experiences, it has a tendency to want to look back at some of the past. And this is one of the things that there's been a streamlining and then eventually dissolving of the Akashic Record stuff. Now, for example, you can look at the
Mm-hmm.
soul. It may have gained a lot of experience, but if it wants to look back at its life 10,000 years ago, for example,
Mm-hmm.
that information may not be there, because it merged it and used it, and the details are not going to be there. Of course, the entity itself will not have it, because it's always merging at one point or another, so it's not going to have that. Same thing as the body and the mind. However, the Akashic Records, you can go back 10,000 years, you can go back 20,000 years, and you can tap into something of that time and utilize it in this particular time. So it keeps all of that information. Now, the Akashic Records has been shifting and has been purging of a late, meaning recent, more recent than, hundreds and thousands of years before. Um, so in
Mm-hmm.
essence, like for example, the Akashic Records will have memories of lives where the planet was very different, and there were other
Mm-hmm.
interactions, and may not be
Mm-hmm.
applicable now, but it has access to how it was 10,000 years ago, or 5,000 years ago, or even 2,000 years ago, much more clearly than so. But again, it becomes, can we use this resource now and benefit from it from where the evolution or enlightenment stage is required or beneficial? Then it uses it. A lot of people say, well, we can go back and clear the Akashic record. Yes, that's happening, and clearing would be removing any particular stuff that's not there, that's tapping into, that's not going to be beneficial any longer. But that's happening automatically. A lot of the Akashic record is being purged, per se, because a lot of the stuff is not applicable in any way. And it actually becomes a bit of a slowdown in our evolving and enlightenment process,
Mm-hmm.
because it's referring to stuff that was completely a different energy, a different creation, a different reality altogether. And bodies were different then, everything was different then. So, do we need all that information? There's a streaming of that is taking place. Hopefully I've explained it, because there's a lot of details to that, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get
Mm-hmm.
too elaborate, because people can get easily lost in it.
My view of it is this is an entity construct by itself, the Akashic record,
Mhm.
that it was designed as a tool to access by the subconscious at hypnosis and so forth, as the ultimate truth, or let's say the reference absolute truth. But it is as I would say as feeble truth as the soul truth is.
Yes, yes, correct. I know some people have tapped into the Akashic records and looked at, when we have had more alien intervention, and those memories are there, and whatever else. And I've found that you can get easily lost in that. So as much as a tool is a tool, you don't want to make the tool as your new navigating system and the new truth at that point in time. As much as that may have happened and all of that may be in place, how much power do we want to give to that being the governor of our journey now, today, in our
Mhm.
way of moving forward?
So in my interpretation, this is another kind of entity,
Yes, yes,
construct
you're
entity.
correct about that. Absolutely. It is another
Mhm.
level of entity. Yes, correct. And is another pocket of consciousness too within
Mhm.
that entity interaction.
Mhm. Okay. Um, we discussed about the entity and the growth of entities, right? This is the subject. Let's continue in those. Um, we as souls and our spiritual path is really appreciate and put lots of perspective on the free will of the soul,
Mm-hmm.
and not so much about the free will of the entity and the body. Why is it important? For the soul, the free will, and it's not so important, and it's not so much regarded for the entity.
Okay. When you really look at it, the main purpose that human experience or any physical experience and any playground, which Earth and or any other planet that exists, is the
Mm-hmm.
evolution and expansion of source or essence, which are represented through souls. So the main benefit at this point for any evolving or evolutionary aspect or expanding or enlightenment is soul priority. Okay.
Okay, so let me guess what's your answers.
Okay.
So I guess your answer is that this is the playground for the souls,
Correct.
and the entities are free riders.
Well, they're a tool too. Yes.
They're free, or let's say they are guests. They are guests for and they are, let's say, what it was called, and catalysts for the souls, angel and devils and so forth, but they are not the the subject of the creation.
Yeah. They're not the main focal point for that. Exactly. So, for example, entities evolving evolves the human experience to a certain
Mm-hmm.
level. The body is evolving evolves the human experience, advances the human experience. The same thing with the mind. So it just makes it more fertile, more beneficial for the soul's evolution coming in with a more advanced
Mm-hmm.
environment to play in, right? So you see how it all benefits, but it's still ultimately the soul's playground, like you said. It's there.
Mm-hmm.
So can we? It's like the video game. We're playing the video
Mm-hmm.
game. What's the purpose of the video game? Is for the player of the video game to advance, to
Mm-hmm.
develop its skills, right?
Right.
So if the video game advances, it just
Mm-hmm.
makes it a better playground for the soul to advance within it or utilize it as a tool
For the player,
for the player. Yes,
right? And all the entities and the characters in the video games are entities actually.
correct. Entities, consciousness put together. Yes, yes,
Mm-hmm. Right.
yes.
So, so the free will, the soul's free will, is the main navigation tool for the soul, for its advance.
Correct, correct.
And it cannot be breached. It must be, let's say, manipulated in order to divert it.
Yes, well, it has to agree with it. For example,
Mhm.
there is free will at the entity level and there is free will at the mind level. Does it supersede the soul's free will? No. However, the soul
Mhm.
allows, that's probably not the proper word, but is an agreement to let the entity evolve because it is how it facilitates the soul's involvement. And the same thing with the physical and so forth. So saying, okay, I'm going to leave you the free will to make certain decisions because that particular decision will create an environment where I can benefit too because there's certain areas that I haven't been able to access before. So yeah, go ahead for it, do it, and
Mhm.
but the soul doesn't become the dictator, but it carries a priority sequence of saying, okay, this is what we need to do for the purpose. Like, we're here for this. Okay. The other thing
Okay.
too is the soul's advancement is source advancement, and a source advancement, it benefits everything anyways because we're in that field. So
Hmm.
it goes all the way around. It's like every part of it always goes back to the whole unit. That's why this whole oneness thing becomes so important, to understand that every facet of it, even saying, a dark entity, or one that comes in with this particular agenda. For example, like people a lot of times bring up is the fact, we've been manipulated, we've been all of that. When you look
Hmm.
at it, yes, it may look like that as an observer if you're looking at it at a limited viewpoint. But if you're looking at it an expanded viewpoint, you say, well, even that manipulation has created
Hmm.
fertile ground or fertile experience for the whole. And it
Hmm.
doesn't, you're not going to have anything come about that does not, in one way or another, benefit every part of it in some
That's
way
correct.
or somehow. It can't happen.
Yeah.
It's all part.
Yes. Most of the technological advancement in the human experience is related to warfare,
Hmm.
which is a drama of control.
Correct. And that only accentuates the experience of, yeah, that we need to have enemies, that we have to fight, that we need to,
Hmm.
have all that drama, coming to the point of saturation where it no longer serves. And now you say, well, no, we're not participating in any of that. None of it is necessary anymore. And everything starts to shut down. And then technical advancement now
Hmm.
goes into advancing humans' experience rather than perpetuate. Because if you look at it,
Hmm.
this has always been curious for me, and I'm sure you've observed it too. If we took the resources, the technology advancements, the tools that we have been provided, and the tools that we've
Hmm.
discovered ourselves, and the souls that have brought it in from other realms, and we used it to advance a playground that was sustainable and harmonious for the physicalities, harmonious for the collective, harmonious for the planet and everything on the
Hmm.
planet, our world would be a completely different playground at this point in time, where we would be flourishing rather than still being in struggle and so forth. That is an old pattern, a
Yes, but
paradigm.
yes, and but the counter argue is in that case it will be idle.
No, it wouldn't, because we are still creating advancement, because now we use creativity how to advance human experience rather than creativity how to survive, creativity how to destroy one another. And it's like, I'm going to go in and destroy my vehicle, my body, only coming to the realization, wait a minute, I needed that body,
Hmm.
I didn't take care of it, now it's gone. Planet
Hmm.
Earth is a body. Every physicality on the planet and everything on the planet is part of the body, and it's part of the
Hmm.
vessel and the vehicle. If we destroy it all, then we find out that we're no longer able to play here. The entities disappear, of course.
Hmm.
The physicalities disappear. Everything that's on the planet disappears, and the soul's left like, oh, there's one playground I don't have anymore. You know.
Okay.
So
This um, reminds me of a question about the soul of the planet, of a planet, any planet. Okay, can it override the souls of the inhabitants of the planet?
yes.
Because I know there's the entity of the human experience. There's
Mhm.
the entity of every animal species and every plant species and so forth. But there's the entity and also the soul of the whole planet as a planet, right?
Correct. Yes.
So as humans, I understand we have souls and we interact with it, and also the the planet souls and the animal souls.
Mhm.
But it seems like it has its own path, the soul, as the planet, and we are as a human souls, we are riding on it as an entity on it.
Right. Well, I mean, you look at the soul of the planet itself, it learns from everything that's on the planet. It is not going to take a handful or whatever amount of souls that come in and say, "Oh, we want to see how this is all going to play out by destroying everything." The um, the soul of the planet has to be in agreement for any part of that because it
Mhm.
overrides and oversees the whole human experience because it does not take the will of only a small group of humans souls or alien souls or anything else that's on here or animal souls and so forth. It basically says I'm going to be here regardless of what you choose to do, and even if you uh, choose to damage the fabric of what sustains you on a physical form, I will rebuild
Mhm.
and repair, and you won't be here. But when we're talking about the entities and the physicalities, and the
Mhm.
souls can't come back until a whole new seeding takes place. So the planet's not going to allow its extinction
Mhm.
because of the game that is being played. Because basically, the planet itself has wiped itself out several times over, the
Mhm.
millions of years, and
Mhm.
species have come and gone. And we're just another
Mhm.
species if you're talking human, and the animal
Yeah.
kingdom and plant life, all of it has been other
Mhm.
species, and there's always
Mhm.
restart, right?
Yeah. This is. It says that this is the fifth kingdom
Hmm.
of life of life rejuvenation or life cycle on the earth.
Correct. Yes. So at this point in time, it's not going to allow the sixth one to come about. So, in essence, this fifth one is going to be around for a while. And if it means you have to push everything out, we'll push everything out. But at this point, it's being cooperative. It's upgrading itself too, as the souls that are coming on the planet are coming up much more upgraded. But yeah, you got a good point because it's not. There is a. It's like anything else. You have a virus that comes into your body. It's really the consciousness of your entity, your body, your soul, and at the end, the consciousness of your physicality itself.
Mhm.
The whole that if it allows it to flourish or not. It's saying, well, you come in, but do I give you space to play? Yeah, I'm going to give you some space, but I'm not. Ultimately, I have to decide if I'm going to let you take over and take me out of offline, right? And
Right.
so there's so much that needs to be agreed upon before anything takes place. It's not like, oh, it just happened, right? There's much more to that.
So
And so
in
that's the micro inversion version of the macro, which is the planet Earth. Say, okay,
so
the sector can kill each other, do whatever you want, but if it's going to affect the whole, then I'm not
mm,
allowing it. Then it won't happen.
so in that respect, uh, the free will of the planet can and will override the free will of the human collective.
Correct. Now, the human collective and the human, or even the soul itself, has free will, but if it wants to experience blowing the whole planet up,
Mhm.
it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen on this dimension. It could go happen someplace else in another dimension where the consciousness and what we call the soul of another planet that would say, yeah, I'm okay to regenerate again. So yeah, come and play here. So that's kind of there is a certain level of free will, but to do it here, there has to be. No, you're not going to have that happen to supersede because the planet's soul is looking
Mhm.
at a bigger perspective than the individualized soul.
Okay, in that respect of individualized soul, when is there more, let's say, authority or strength to the free will of the more conscious than the less conscious?
Well, if you're talking about more conscious, what, at the mind level and the entity
on,
level,
the
you're talking
on the
about.
spiritual level.
Okay, so if you're
Let,
talking
let, let's
soul,
say there's is a very a common concept in the New Age spiritual domain that there is a handful of very spiritual people, what I say, arrogant.
mm,
Okay, that means that some people are more important or more effective than other people as a soul,
mm,
more counted.
right,
Okay, well, in a matter of speak, yes, whenever someone is speaking his mind and his ideas, those ideas can spread out and infect the others.
correct.
But it can go both directions. It can be for controlling people or for freeing people or spiritualizing people, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
But on a spiritual level, I don't accept the the concept that there are the more spiritual people have more spiritual authority or more counted toward the evolution of the earth. What's your aspect?
No, you're correct about that because there isn't more. Now, the only difference is, oh, let's put it this way: each and every soul has the same accessibility. Now, if one soul is more advanced than the other, and when I say advanced, it basically has less layers and it remembers more of who it is and more experientially
Mm-hmm.
expansive. It may be more consciously aware of the the capacity that it has. But does it have the right to control any other soul or any other presence on the planet? No. Now, it will, like you were saying, can share its wisdom, its experiences from a more advantaged point, but it's up to the
Mm-hmm.
individual souls to take on or utilize any part of it. For example, even this information that's going out now, or any information that's put out there,
Mm-hmm.
who are attracted? The ones that are interested in finding out, and they'll listen, but they can use a small part of it, they can use none of it, or they can use a lot of it as bringing it into their own personal experience. So a soul will facilitate other souls by sharing, like we're doing right now.
Right.
However, it's up to the individual souls that now, as for one having authority over another, no. Um, there is souls that are more advanced that have taken on a bigger role in facilitating, but saying that one has
Mm-hmm.
more free will than the other, no. One is more aware of the level of free will that we have. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and that's really where the difference is. So what you're
Mm-hmm.
pointing out, your observation is accurate, yes. So I
Okay.
mean, a lot of people talk about that because it's coming from a less limited viewpoint and
Mm-hmm.
maybe a gender-directed viewpoint that may be in a little cluster of collective that people are going into and say, "Oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, well, when you become spiritually aware," because you see it a lot of times where people start to waken up and then they become much more judgmental and they now start looking down at other people because they're more more limited in their way of doing things. But the point is here, duty, is that
Yeah.
that role, that one that is playing out, is no more valuable or less valuable than the role someone else is playing out, because that is still necessary in the whole. If it wasn't, then it wouldn't, and it would be upgraded, and that particular
Mm-hmm.
soul wouldn't even be coming back on the planet. Now, a lot of that is happening right now. Less advanced
Mm-hmm.
souls are no longer reincarnating, coming in at this point in time. So in essence, it's just the ones that have been here that may be less evolved or whatever, giving the opportunity for them to evolve quickly.
Okay. I think it's a good time to stop now because on the limit of our time, it's now 10:55 your
Okay.
time,
Okay.
right?
So we'll carry on again.
Let's yes, and we will carry on and continue with the question about free will and the hierarchy, if there is any hierarchy of free will, and the philosophical question arising from free will.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.